The latest intervention by the boss of the BBC, or so he likes to think. Yep, that's right, Mr. Gary Lineker's been at it again.
And today we are joined in the studio by TalkTV's political correspondent, Alicia Fitzgerald. Thanks for joining us. Let's talk about Lineker, shall we? I mean,
Lineker.
It's just like another day, another social media storm. This time he has retweeted a tweet calling for Israel to be banned from all international football, which incidentally was a plea by the Palestinian FA, saying that Israel shouldn't. So basically, it's definitely side-taking in this conflict. And they always say Gary Lineker, Alicia, should be allowed to tweet his political views because he's a sports presenter. I'm a bit sort of dubious about that. But this is political and sporting. I mean, he's the chief sports presenter of the BBC,
yeah.
the chief football presenter, and he's getting involved in a political row here, isn't he?
Well, I feel like every time I come and sit with you guys, there's another Gary Lineker story. It's just like every single week there is something else. And as you say, this one is a bit different because previously it's just been politics-based, and he's been able to use the argument that actually he doesn't really have any say in BBC's political standing whatsoever. He doesn't do the news. He doesn't actually interact much with their output there. But this is obviously now also a bit more of a sporting issue, so we can't really wiggle out of it quite so easily, I think. But yeah, this is just a continuation of that same story,
I mean,
really.
to make matters worse, the Hamas news agency apparently has openly celebrated old Luggy Lineker's intervention. Well done,
He'll like
Gary.
that. He'll like that.
He'll love it. But no, this is a problem, especially with our TalkTV exclusive that we've got about how many people are being prosecuted for not paying their licence fee. And you start to think to yourself, they really do need to act because he's trolling them now. He's making a mockery of the executives of the BBC. And when it does get... I mean, I've not heard him say that Russia shouldn't have a football team or, you know, various other countries who are committing atrocities around the world. This is deliberately provocative. It has to be. I don't think there's any other explanation at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's this theory that... I mean, it seems to hold more and more water, the theory that he is just poking the BBC and that for some reason he kind of wants to get sacked on a sort of wave of virtue signalling glory. Aren't I wonderful? And has no doubt got some multi-million-pound job lined up in the offing, you know.
I guess, but I think it's also a big question about Tim Davie, the Director General's authority at the BBC, because, you know, he's often under fire for various things. And I remember, I think it was even last week with you guys, he does get scrutinised every now and again. It was under the 1922 committee, which is just a Conservative Party MP little committee, and they scrutinised him. But lots of people are saying it's not enough, and he actually just doesn't face
What about
the music.
this? What was it, last week or the week before, where he once again he was involved in a social media row, and we said, well, what is the BBC going to do about it? I think this time he liked or retweeted, you know, something about Palestine. Yes, it was the list of people who'd signed a letter calling for Israel to bring about a ceasefire and to stop genocide and all that. He got involved in that, and we waited for a BBC response. And the new policy from the dynamic leader of the BBC, Tim Davie, the Director General, appears to be do nothing. Stick your fingers in your ear and just act like it's not happening and it will pass. Well, in the end, we need to have some action, a demonstration of leadership.
I guess, but also we have to remember, there are people who do totally back Gary Lineker's position here. There are people even within the BBC who will say, hang on,
I think the majority of them.
Lots. He's well within his right to do this, like blah, blah, blah. Lots of people definitely are arguing that, so it's not as kind of black and white.
Well, the thing is, it is an election year coming up. Don't we all know it? Aren't we reminded of it every 5 minutes? And so this actually has more bearing than perhaps it would have done if it isn't such a critical year in
We'll be
politics.
talking about it later in the show. And encompassing the question, is it time that the BBC stop prosecuting people for not paying their TV licences? That anachronism, I think, has to be wiped out.